Come on, folks. Are cops your friends? Can they be? We're living in a police state. You know, we got to know, people, what's going on here. We got to stand up for our rights. We got to know how to employ our rights, because if we don't, we're never going to pierce the conscience of these police, because they're just going along with the program, being told what to do, and you know what? They're not being educated. You know, and thank goodness for programs like Food for Thought. We're showing you Mr. Ben Ark, and what's he doing there, Buzz?
Oh, teacher, by now, hopefully you've gotten the whole class of the on the U.S. Constitution and a basic understanding of what the Constitution conveyed and what it's metamorphosized into over the years, because I mean, obviously some of those meanings, you know, don't apply anymore. And what he basically talks about is property, and that's where all rights stem from, is property, and it's the respect of that property. And it's the same thing about the police officers. And are the police our friends? Because as somewhere amongst all of this now, you know, police are being taught that we are guilty. Well, in a land of 6 million plus laws, everyone is guilty of something. There's no way to live without that.
Buzz, you know what I got to say we got to do right now? We're going to roll on, folks, but before we move on, we got Robert Bonner, okay? He was sworn in as the 5th administrator of the DEA. He worked for over 3 years, from 1990 to 93, as the administrator for the DEA. Check out this video clip. It also has Judge James Gray in it, all right? And tell us what you think. Are cops your friends?
Ain't nothing is better than the freedom.
Because of the money.
Let me understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America.
Well,
in cooperation with the CIA?
That's exactly what appears to have happened.
Ain't nothing is better than the freedom.
By the way, the head of the DEA, his name is Rob Bonner, is a friend of mine throughout the first George Bush administration, documented that yes, the CIA was involved with importation of a fair amount of cocaine with regard to the Iran-Contra, etc. But it just has to happen because of the money.
Ain't nothing is better than the freedom.
Yeah, folks, there's, you know, the administrator for the DEA, just after he left office, telling you, you know, what's going on? The CIA is bringing in cocaine, and they're, you know, crack epidemic across the country.
You know, and what's really sad about that is he condemns the CIA for not notifying them and securing approval of the DEA before they smuggle the drugs in.
In other words, it's okay if you tell us
right,
what's
but
going
he's not
on.
even condemning them for the fact that they're smuggling drugs.
Good Lord. Well, folks, we got to bring your attention to Mr. Jack McLamb. All right, now, here's a true patriot, someone who joined the police out in Phoenix, Arizona at an elder part of his life. I think he was near 40 when he joined the police force. So, you know, everyone else who's going through the police force and through the academy, they're a little bit younger and, you know, maybe not stepping back and asking too many questions when they're being told what they're told. Well, Jack McLamb, he became one of the most highly decorated officers in Phoenix, Arizona, and through his experience, he realized that he needed to employ
the law of the land
in his job, and he lost his job twice, folks. I can't go on forever and tell you his testimony, but he got, you know, put back into his job and got his back pay as well. And you know, this man goes out of his way to put up a webpage called Police and Military Against the New World Order, and he puts out a newsletter called Aid and Abet, you know. And then Aid and Abet, he says what? Taking our oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution seriously. Now that's what we're trying to get at here. Where are these police officers who are taking their oath of office, you know, seriously? You know what? They're getting a paycheck and they're afraid to stand up for it because they want job security. And that's what's going on in this country, and that's why we're in this position. Stop bitching, start a revolution, educate yourself from those around you so you don't have to tolerate in those politicians what you don't tolerate in your family and friends. We're serious as a heart attack, people. You got to understand that. All right. Now, Jack, you know, McLamb there, he understands, folks, that the important points concerning the globalist agenda, all right, is that they intend to gain through all and any available means total dictatorial control over all of the peoples of the world. And you know what? He says this, folks, that they cannot realize their goal if the would-be enforcers, meaning the police and the military, or the soldiers, refuse to assist them in their treachery. So his motto spells this out, folks. He says this: if police officials and soldiers will not enforce tyranny, it will never be enforced. Now, I got to tell you, You know, before we get into this next segment, Buzzy, you got the Fourth Amendment there? Whip that out. Let's tell the folks exactly what the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure, says. Please do.
The rights of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall be issued but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describe the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Now, the Fourth Amendment, you know, it used to be cherished, folks, amongst the Bill of Rights and its protections for us. But you know what? What's happened? You know, Prohibition has, what? Wiped it out, man. You got search and seizure and it's legal, you know? So now what it is, you got war against drugs and terrorism, and for this reason, you know,
oh yeah,
Bill of Rights no longer seems to protect us.
Connect the dots, people. This is one of those shows. Connect the dots. Everything that we've been talking about between the two programs for the last 2.5, 3 years is actually should be starting to come together for you. You know, here the CIA smuggling in the drugs, the government making the drugs illegal, so now they have an excuse to go and arrest the citizens. And then now you were talking about also, and this is not something new, but I mean, I never really thought applied it to seizures of property where police would get they meet their commission for so many traffic tickets to prove that they're enforcing the law. But, you know, through the seizure of properties, like, and there's dozens and dozens of different examples.
There's incentive is what you're saying.
Where like they find someone with cash, $10,000, the guy proves he's innocent.
And if they're honest, they get a cut for the administration, or they steal it.
Well, they don't give it back.
Yep.
I mean, there was one story, I remember this guy, they took $20-something thousand. He sold this heavy equipment at an auction and they paid in cash. He got pulled over on the way back. They took the money as drug money.
Driving a tractor-trailer truck.
Right.
Yep, I remember the story.
And out of that $20-something thousand, the police only gave him $10,000 back, $11,000 back. They stole it. The police are thieves. In that particular case, they stole the money. No other reason. Oh, because they thought he was a drug dealer? That's BS. Plain and simple.
Well,
guilty until proven innocent.
The reason we brought up the Fourth Amendment, folks, is because you have to know what SWAT teams are doing around this country. You know, we've been making ourselves aware, you know. And there's this story that took place, all right, down in Berwyn Heights in Maryland, folks. I want you to take a little bit of time and just hear me out a little bit, and then we're going to show you a video, okay, of Mayor Che Calvo. And after his traumatic experience, what he is doing now to make change with drug policy and SWAT teams across this country, especially in Meriden. So, Mayor Che Calvo, his mother-in-law, Georgia Porter. All right, what was Georgia doing? She was stirring her spaghetti sauce when suddenly she saw armed, masked men in black swarming across their backyard. One of the men saw her and pointed. All right, folks, a high-powered assault weapon directly at her through the window. She screamed. Suddenly, the front door shattered, and men in black burst into the house. How'd you like to be in this scenario? Listen on, folks. All right? Peyton, one of the family's 2 black Labrador retrievers, was lying stretched out on the living room floor. As he turned his head towards the door, the terrified Georgia, all right, his mother-in-law, the mayor's mother, watched as the men shot him in the face multiple times. The other family dog, Chase, all right, ran into the dining room in an attempt to escape from the screaming men, but they rushed into the dining room from all directions and also shot him. Oh, yes. All right? This is what's going on in our country, the police state of America. Someone pushed Georgia's face down on the ground and put a gun to her head there, Buzz. All right? Here's an old woman, all right, cooking her spaghetti sauce a minute earlier. Now she's got a gun on her head. They bound her hands behind her and started screaming, "Where are they? Where are they?" She had no idea what they were talking about. Can you imagine this? Oh my God. So she shut her eyes, thinking they were going to shoot her next. Upstairs, 37-year-old Che Calvo was getting dressed for a community meeting when he heard the shouting and the gunfire. He fell to the bedroom floor, and when he heard the men ordered to come upstairs where he was, he called out, "I'm up here! Please don't shoot! Please don't shoot!" Man's crapping in his pants, people, all right? Well, they told him to come downstairs. He looked down at the staircase into the barrels of 2 shotguns pointed at him. Imagine that, folks, early in the morning, all right? Gingerly, he walked slowly down the staircase backwards, clad only in his boxer shorts. When he neared the bottom, someone led him the rest of the way down, pulled his hands back behind his back, and bound his wrists very tightly. Che saw Georgia on the kitchen floor with a man holding a gun against her head. Then, what does he see? He sees his beloved dog, Peyton, slumped on the living room floor in a huge puddle of blood. Oh, yeah, what a sight to remember, huh, folks? I tell you. As he knelt on the floor, he could hear his house being ransacked top to bottom as he struggled to try to figure out what could they possibly be doing that was worth stealing in his house. He thinks he's being robbed, people. As time passed, Che could see people gathering in his front lawn, all right, including some wearing official-looking jackets. Through his fear and his sorrow, Che tried to make sense of what was happening. He thought, if this were a home invasion, people wouldn't be standing out in my front lawn. They'd be hiding. Does this mean that these men could be law enforcement? Whatever for? Well, anyway, folks, the story goes on and on and on.
That's a real disturbing part, too, that the fact that when they come crashing through their house, they're not identifying themselves as police. So, I mean, if you don't know that cops are busting through, you might be apt to pick up a gun, which in some ways I get the impression that's what they want, so they get to play their video game lifestyle and shoot people, because that's what it sounds like as I'm listening to you read it. It sounds like
it's terrible.
This, outline of a video game.
Come on, folks. The SWAT team spent almost 4 hours ransacking the house. They found no sign of drugs, no guns, no stash of cash, not even a single roll of paper. The fact of the matter is that his wife was being sent a package with 32 pounds of marijuana, and a drug dog happened to sniff it while it was at the post office or the Federal Express or wherever it was coming from. So the police didn't even do the research on the gentleman's house to find out that he was the mayor of the town. They went in, they killed his 2 dogs, you know, and traumatized the family. Now, folks, check out, all right, what good old Mayor Calvo has to say after he's been traumatized. Now, folks, I want you to join us next week. We're going to be talking more about the police state of America and are cops your friends? You answer the question yourself.
See you next week.
Peace, people.
The reason for their hunt? They think he has a lot of marijuana that he's intending to sell. But in fact, they only find a small amount, not enough for any serious charges. And this is not an isolated incident. Numerous raids just like this one take place every day all over the country. Officers, dressed more like soldiers, violently bust into people's homes, leaving innocent victims, in this case the family pet, dead in their paths. And we're joined now by one person who this actually happened to, C.I.A. Calvo, who also happens to be the mayor of Berwyn Heights, Maryland. Mr. Calvo, I want to start and just first have you tell me the story of what happened back in July of 2008.
Sure, Christine. It was, for the first 17 hours, a normal day. I got home from work to walk my dogs before a community meeting I had to get to that night. When I came home with the dogs, let them off their leads, and found a white box on my front porch that it was addressed to my wife, didn't think much of it, so I brought it in, left it unopened on a table, and went upstairs to change back into business attire. I'd gotten down to my boxer shorts when I heard my mother-in-law, who lived with us then and was cooking dinner, scream out to me, just a fearful sound. It made no sense, something about SWAT, so I ran over to a window to look out, and sure enough, I saw these men dressed in black with high-caliber rifles. I didn't have a chance to process that before I heard an explosion, the sound of our door being kicked open with a battering ram, followed by immediate gunfire. I, overwhelmed with fear, hit the ground, more gunfire, men in boots. They came upstairs, put me at gunpoint, dragged me down, bound me, had me kneel at gunpoint in my boxer shorts on our living room floor as they turned our house upside down. I mean, my mother-in-law, who was cooking dinner, was thrown on her face in front of the dinner she was preparing. My older black Labrador, Peyton, was in a far corner of the living room lying in a pool of his own blood. It was a nightmare, a 4-hour ordeal, which they had delivered that box, which they said had marijuana in it, but they found nothing to connect us to it, and they turned our lives upside down over a botched raid, and they also shot our younger dog, Chase, who was running away from them, actually shot him from behind, and it was just a terrible, terrible, terrible day.
A little girl came to our house after this happened the next day, and she said to me, she said, if the police shot your dogs dead and did this to you, how can I trust them?
Okay. This is a test of the emergency bong hit system. The bong hitters in your area, in voluntary defiance of federal, state, and local authorities, have developed this system to keep you informed in the event of a bong hit emergency. If this had been an actual emergency, the detention signal you just heard would have been followed by official supply information, police scanner news, and emergency bong hitting instructions. This concludes this test of the emergency bong hit system.
Quit playing hands with God!
Wake up, America.